It was the kind of rain that didn't fall. It whispered, floating down like ash over the old brick buildings of Briarwood University. A dull mist clung to the ivy-covered walls and turned the air thick with a chill that crept into bones. The campus, beautiful in a haunted kind of way, sprawled across the hillside like it had secrets buried under every cobblestone path. Lamplights flickered along the main walk, casting golden halos in the fog, while students hurried between lecture halls, their umbrellas bumping like nervous whispers in a crowd. It was late October, midterm season. Stress hung in the air, tighter than the chill. But inside Wallace Hall, room 314, the tension had a different flavor. Professor Daniel Carey, late 40s, impossibly sharp, with streaks of gray in his otherwise black hair, stood at the front of his lecture hall, dry erase marker in hand, discussing the ethics of power through Machiavelli's lens. His voice was calm, clipped, persuasive, the kind of tone that made a student lean in, even when they didn't care about philosophy, especially when they didn't. Among the scattered students taking notes, or pretending to, sat Lila James. Third row, slightly to the left. 19. Political science major with a sharp eye and the kind of curiosity that got her into trouble. She kept her eyes fixed on the professor, pen tapping rhythmically against her notebook. But it wasn't the lecture she was focused on. Her face was composed, serious, attentive. But beneath the surface, her thoughts were far from the ethics of statecraft. Her mind lingered on the after-hours meetings, the way his hand had brushed hers last week, and the glint in his eyes when they lingered too long on hers. It hadn't been discussed, not outright, but something had begun, a subtle shift in how she saw him, and how he looked at her. After class, the students trickled out. Lila took her time packing her bag, deliberate. Daniel erased the board slower than necessary, his back to her. "You understood the Hobbes reading?" he asked without turning. "More or less," she replied, slinging her bag over one shoulder. "But I had questions." A pause. The silence filled the space like smoke. "Office hours?" he offered, finally glancing over his shoulder. She met his gaze. "I was hoping for something less official." That was how it started. Or maybe it had started long before, with a look. A subtle nod in the hallway. The flicker of something, unspoken across a desk between words. Either way, the door was open now. Daniel's office was warm compared to the hallways. Shelves of books towered behind his desk. A painting of a stormy sea hung above his couch. Dramatic, almost theatrical, like everything in his carefully curated space. Lila sat on the edge of that couch, legs crossed, eyes scanning the titles on the nearest shelf. "Your wife has good taste," she said, nodding toward the decor. His reaction was slight, a shift of the jaw, a faint clearing of the throat. "She picked out the painting," he admitted, sitting across from her. "It's never quite felt like mine." There was no need to clarify the rest. Lila wasn't stupid. She knew the rumors about Professor Carr. Married, yes, but distant. The kind of man who wore his ring out of habit, not love. He offered her tea, which she declined. He leaned back in his chair, watching her the way a man might watch the horizon before a storm. "I'll be honest," she said. "I didn't come here to talk about Hobbes." A beat of silence passed between them. It stretched long enough for discomfort to creep in, then snap. "Then why did you come?" he asked, his voice soft, careful. Lila shrugged, but her eyes didn't. "I like knowing what I can get away with." There it was. Not a confession, not quite, but a challenge. One Daniel didn't immediately turn away from. Outside, the rain tapped harder against the window. Inside, the silence was louder than the storm. Over the next few weeks, everything on the surface remained the same. Lila sat in the third row. Daniel lectured. Students took notes. But beneath it, something electric buzzed. Quick glances exchanged. In passing. Late-night office visits that ended in silence and long pauses. No one said anything, yet. But not everyone was blind. Eli Watkins, Lila's ex from her freshman year, now just a friend at least in name, had begun to notice. He'd seen the way she lingered after class, the way her demeanor shifted when Carr entered a room. She laughed less around Eli, smiled less too. And when she did smile, it wasn't for him. "You don't have to tell me," Eli said one night, as they walked back from the dining hall, cold wind tugging at their jackets. "But just know I notice. I see the way you look at him." Lila stopped walking. "What are you talking about? You think I'm dumb?" Eli shot back, eyes sharp. "The man's twice your age, married, it won't end well." She didn't respond, just walked ahead. That silence, too, meant something. At home, Daniel was quieter than usual. His wife, Marissa, noticed the shift, though she didn't say much. They'd been distant for years, tethered by routine more than passion. She was used to his long hours, the unreadable look in his eyes when he returned home late. But lately, that look had changed. Less tired, more restless. One night, she walked into his study to find him staring blankly at a page of undergrad essays. "You okay?" she asked. He looked up too quickly, startled. "Just tired," he said. She lingered in the doorway, watching, measuring the weight of that lie. The ordinary continued. Papers were graded, emails exchanged. Halloween came and went. Lila dressed as a Greek goddess at a house party and caught Daniel staring when she posted the photo online. He didn't like the picture, but he saw it. Twice. A week later, their hands brushed beneath a stack of papers. Neither moved away. Still, no one said a word, but that calm, that silence was only the surface, and beneath it, something was waiting to break.